Well, hello there, friends and kin. I sincerely apologize for Sundee Service being late this week. Welcome to belated Sundee Service. When I visited the cemetery on Sunday to record the service, I ran into repeated interruptions with another visitor at the cemetery, and by the time I was able to reconcile the issue, uh, sum it up in a nice little nutshell, the driving pathways in the cemetery are very narrow, and I try to pull over to the side as best I can. But there's not much of a shoulder to pull onto without, unfortunately, running over somebody's grave, which I do my very level best not to do. But someone pulled up behind me, and I thought they had enough room to clear to get past, but they really didn't. And this individual, rather than just kind of backing up to get out the way they came, decided to get a little impatient, and so I had to get up and leave. And by the time that person got out, I'd run out of time, and I had to get on with some other things in the day. So I apologize for that. This evening we're going to carry on where we left off with Anam Cara while I sit in my witch shack and puff on a Perdomo Lot 23. This is actually one of my favorite go-to standard cigars. Uh, the I like the Nicaraguan and the Maduro. They're just a good standard, straightforward, everyday smoke for those of my friends and kin that also love to partake of the realm of stogie. My reading's probably going to be a little bit longer than normal because I want to finish this section of Ankara Gwen that we're on, or Ankara Gwen. That's the other study group I'm doing where we're reading. Anamkara is what we're reading today. Uh, and we are almost done with this particular section, so I kind of want to finish this out. We are always on a journey from darkness to light. At first, we're children of darkness. Your body and your face were formed first in the kind darkness of your mother's womb. Your birth was a first journey from darkness into light. All your life, your mind lives within the darkness of your body. Every thought that you have is a flint moment, a spark of light from your inner darkness. The miracle of thought is its presence in the night side of your soul. The brilliance of thought is born in darkness. Each day is a journey. We come out of the night and into the day. All creativity awakens at this primal threshold where light and darkness rest and bless each other. You only discover balance in your life when you learn to trust the flow of this ancient rhythm. The year also is a journey with the same rhythm. The Celtic people had a deep sense of circular nature, of the circular nature of our journey. We come out of the darkness of winter into the possibility and effectiveness of an effervescence of springtime. Maybe I should pull the candlelight a little bit closer. There we go. Now we can see a little bit better. But I will say this section makes something pop to my mind. And for anybody that may be listening who've gone through any sort of formal initiation, uh, be it witchcraft or other common forms of initiatic societies like the Freemasons, there's always this theme of darkness to light. That's a quality almost all of them have. To my understanding, even the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn has a similar theme in the degrees that they utilize. And I actually, as I mentioned in my introductory videos, I was a Freemason. I still am technically. I'm just not as nowhere near as active as I once was. But I conferred. I was active enough to where I conferred several degrees, and that theme is always there, taking you from this stage of darkness into a state of illumination, clarifying your understanding of something, and that's a never-ending unfolding journey, and that's what Mr. O'Donohue's getting at here. You can see the cyclical pattern on every level of existence, and it is everywhere, and that's worthy of note because it serves as a roadmap for progression, development, growth. Ultimately, light is the mother of life. Where there is no light, there can be no life. If the angle of the sun were to turn away from the earth, all human, animal, and vegetative life as we know it would disappear. Ice would freeze the earth again. Light is the secret presence of the divine. It keeps life awake. Light is a nurturing presence, which calls forth warmth and color in nature. The soul awakens and lives in light. It helps us glimpse the sacred depths within us. Once human beings began to search for a meaning to life, light became one of the most powerful metaphors to express the eternity and depth of life. In the Western tradition, and indeed the Celtic tradition, thought has often been compared to light. In its luminosity, the intellect was deemed to be the place of the divine within us. When the human mind began to consider the next greatest mystery of life, the mystery of love, light was also always used as a metaphor for its power and presence. When love awakens in your life, in the night of your heart, it is like the dawn breaking within you. Where before there was anonymity, now there is intimacy. Where before there was fear, now there is courage. Where before in your life there was awkwardness, now there is a rhythm of grace and gracefulness. Where before you used to be jagged, now you are elegant and in rhythm with yourself. When love awakens in your life, it is like a rebirth, a new beginning. And that concludes this particular section entitled The Celtic Circle of Belonging. Mr. O'Donohue's words in these passages reminds me of the cycle I can see in my own life. And love has been a part of that ever unfolding cycle, learning what love is and what its place is in my life. And I've met so many other people over the years like myself who have, they look back on their previous chapters sometimes with a sense of shame and regret, and I have the bad habit of doing that. Uh, they look at these previous chapters as being like mistakes that they should be ashamed of, and because we erroneously think of mistakes as things that shouldn't happen, and I don't think that's entirely true. At least not all the time, not in every single context. A lot of times mistakes need to happen because they're learning opportunities, they're teaching tools. And I think when you can appreciate those moments of error, uh, you can look back at how you emerged out of that situation as a dawn, as a light breaking, much like Mr. O'Donohue describes here. You know, when you realized what you were doing was not the right thing to do, the place you were at was not the right place. Uh, that you figured out where some boundaries are, and you were able to learn a little bit about yourself, about people, about the world, maybe even about the realm of spirit. And then when that particular cycle ran its course, it's ready. You're ready to start another one. And I think again, it's erroneous to put yourself through that the guilt and shame trap over things that you ended up having to part ways with, or that didn't turn out to be your long term home. Uh, because you're denying yourself the reward of wisdom one. And I myself, I've been a part of many things that I won't bring up being a part of in certain circles, just because I know of all the associations people would have with it. I mean, not that I'm afraid of that. It's more out of a sense of other people's comfort level. Uh, but some of the religious groups I've been a part of, not come to find out, we're not the best group of people. And but through my interactions with them, I figured out where my boundaries were. I figured out a little bit more of my internal sense of right and wrong, and I also found tidbits of information that would ultimately lead me to the path I'm on now. So again, to look back at those things is something to be buried in the dark. Uh, I think we do ourselves a disservice. I think we should embrace our history, our screw ups, and our victories. Now, certainly, we learn through screw ups that there are things that, okay, that's a door that does not need to be opened again, but you shouldn't deny that you went through it, uh, because again, going through it, it teaches you valuable life lessons. And again, if it taught you where a hard boundary was, that's something you should be proud of yourself for taking out of it. I figured out this was really bad for me, and conducting myself this way or adopting these types of beliefs, that does nothing but bring harm to people and harm to myself. So I'm drawing that hard boundary. That's something you should pat yourself on the back over. That's not something you should hide in shame. Because remember, like Mr. O'Donohue says, these cycles are sacred, and they all provide something valuable, because the second they get out of step, as the example he painted, if the angle of the sun changed somehow, and we didn't have the life-giving property of that light, man, everything would just burn up or freeze over or whatever. We exist in a very delicate balance, and this cyclical rhythm ensures that everything gets what it needs in proper proportion, and in its due time, in its due season. And to not have any one of those elements again would just wreak havoc. So take pride in where you've been and what your experiences are. Write them down in a journal. Reflect on them regularly, especially if you find yourself in similar situations. Well, how did I handle this the last time? There you go. You can essentially consult yourself. So with that, I'm going to conclude Sundee Service belated. I hope you all are having a wonderful week, and I look forward, as always, to seeing you next Sunday. Have a blessed day and a blessed rest of your week, friends and kin. It's always good to see you.